The party that gets the vote is the party that gets the smoke. Remember that. Now.
Reparations, and so do their families. Native Americans get reparations. Holocaust survivors get reparations.
Right is right and wrong is wrong. If you're not supposed to be in our country illegally, then you got to go, okay?
We are always overrepresented in the worst statistics. 15-20% of the population and more than 50% of homeless families. This ain't nothing we've done wrong. This is about the wrong that come with policies specifically for Black Americans. That is not a race-based policy. That's lineage-based. And America can definitely do that. We have to stop. And so do their families. Native Americans get reparations. Holocaust survivors get reparations. Japanese Americans got reparations from this here land. But who built this here land?
Hey everyone, welcome to 50 Shades of Grey with Greg Marcel Dixon. Before I begin this show, I know I always say it's going to be a short show, but this one will have to be because I have an emergency. Well, not really an emergency, but something I have to deal with related to COVID-19. You know, strangely, a new strain has been discovered and it's on the rise. So, you know, I don't think COVID-19 is a fake thing, but now more and more they are questioning its origins, which is funny because remember Trump was always saying that it came from China and that it was manufactured in a lab, and now there have been articles that have pretty much kind of hinted at that. Anyway, be that as it may, I have to go tend to someone who might be having a run-in with COVID-19. So I'm really going to have to keep this one short. The good news is this doesn't take much time. The topic of tonight's show, the lie that we're going to debunk, it doesn't really take a whole lot of time to do that. It's such an old, disgusting, played out anti-Freeman FBA Black American lie that it really doesn't take a long time to dismantle. I know this is like probably a week or two late when it was really, really big news, and it still is big news. Like in Florida right now, they are still fiercely protesting against this. Hey, everyone, if you are in the chat, please do this. I know sometimes people hear it and they don't. If you could please click the like button, remembering this now, but I have to look at it, click the like button, share this broadcast, and subscribe if you have not already done so. So please click the like button, share this broadcast, and subscribe if you have not already done so. I'm still an amateur at this thing, and I don't mind being an amateur. You know, I enjoy this. I didn't expect to at all. I'm actually enjoying this because it's almost like we're having a conversation. Y'all say things in the chat. I'm speaking on the show. I don't think I'm to the point yet where people want to actually come on the show. I mean, it ain't that big. I'm mainly doing this for educational purposes, but I'm kind of enjoying this, and I don't want to make something that I genuinely enjoy into something that almost feels like a job or a duty. You know, I really don't want to do that. So I kind of like almost how I keep things informal. So I don't mind being an amateur, and you know what? That's fine with me. We're going to debate. We're going to destroy. Ain't no debate to be done. This whole lie that, thank you, Rex. We're going to destroy this whole lie that the racists, the factious in Florida is pushing there, that slavery was beneficial to our ancestors who were enslaved by the United States of America. We're going to destroy that lie, y'all. It will not take long. It's pretty easy. And I'm going to use some facts because y'all know when I go in on things, I like to present facts. But in this one, this is one of those areas where you ever had it like people ask you what you want to eat and you can't think of what you would like to eat because there's so many things to eat. So you can't really narrow it down to one thing. This is one of those situations where there's so much evidence to prove that American chattel slavery had absolutely no benefits to our ancestors who were enslaved. And then after its end on paper, continued to really face what was pretty much a form of chattel slavery. Chattel slavery 2.0 was sharecropping. There's so much evidence to disprove that lie that I had a hard time narrowing down what evidence to use. We're going to destroy that lie. I'm going to use some facts. It's all going to be facts, but I'm also going to use logic and common sense. Y'all, I was listening to Jason Black's show the other day, and apparently there's a caller who ran into Roland Martian at a truck stop, something like that. And apparently Roland Martian was going around bragging about how he destroyed one of our own cold warriors in his reparations movement with us. And really, he didn't. But the caller called in the Jason's Black show, and he was like, you know what? I mean, if he wanted to say he got me, it's only because he mentioned certain things that at the time, our warrior, the black man who's a reparationist, he was like, he didn't really know the details, so he didn't really know to say yeah or nay. But he did tell Roland Martian, like, I don't believe some of that stuff. And come to find out some of the things Roland Martian said was pretty much bad-faced BS. We cannot have that happen, however. I mean, it's going to happen. It's always going to happen. None of us know everything. And people can spout lies. People can spout lies as often as they want. And we may not know if it's true or not, but if it sounds like BS, smells like BS, it's probably BS. But we're never going to be to a point where we know everything. And people are just going to tell lies that we may not be able to prove is a lie at that time, but it's a lie. That's one of the reasons why people lie, because it's easier to tell them. And sometimes people don't necessarily know if that's a lie or not. But my point is, when it comes to certain things, we have to be ready to debunk and destroy them. So you have this lie going around that our ancestors learned skills from chattel slavery that our ancestors didn't use for their own personal benefit. That is a lie. But what I have seen, of course, you got the raccoons who are going around trying to act like there's validity to that. I'm going to show you one in particular. Let me share my screen. I bookmark it on Twitter. You got the raccoons doing the raccoons and tap dancing as they always do, who are going around trying to act like, well, he's not lying. I mean, he did pick up some skills. Okay, absolutely not true. But I want to show you an example of one of them who, by the way, I refuse. Sometimes I say, okay, I'm not going to go back and forth with idiots. And, I pretty much keep my word. But in this particular case, I refuse to kind of relent on what I was saying. Now, I had this thing bookmarked, and now it's not in my bookmarks. Hold on, I'm still going to pull it up. I want to show you one of the raccoons with whom I was engaged. Well, I wasn't even engaged in a debate, because like I said, it's not a debate at all. But I want to show you one raccoon with whom I was really going back and forth with. He was sitting there trying to give some validity to this whole thing that our ancestors picked up skills that they could use for their own personal gain. Well, first of all, y'all, we already know that one of the brutal facts about American chattel slavery is that we were violently, brutally, okay, probably with some of the worst forms of violence that has been used against a group by a government. We were viciously prohibited from using any skills we had to benefit ourselves. Okay? We were prevented from doing so. We actually were forced violently, viciously, and brutally to use any skills we had to benefit others. If we were caught trying to use any of our skills to benefit ourselves, it often was met with some of the worst violence that you could imagine. And this is even true, for the most part, if we were so-called free, okay? We were not allowed to use our skills to benefit ourselves. All of our skills had to be used for the benefit of others. So let's get that straight right there. I'm going to find this. I can't stand using Twitter on the computer because it doesn't have certain features that makes it easier to find your tweets as it does on the railroad. But there's this tether who is Jamaican, not even a Black American, and any type of anti-Freeman FBA, a Black American. When I say Black Americans in this context, for those who might be watching the show the first time, I am specifically referring to those who are Black descendants of American slaves. Anytime that there is some anti-Black American BS being promulgated, he sits there and he co-signs it pretty much. And I was not letting it go. He was like, I don't know why people are getting so upset about this. It is true. Our ancestors, it's not his ancestors, Black people did pick up skills during chattel slavery that we use to our personal benefit. First of all, no, we did not. See, here's the problem with that I need us to understand. That kind of implies that any skills that we had during the time of chattel slavery, we only got it because of chattel slavery. That ignores the fact that there have always been free Black people in the United States of America who had the same skills that their enslaved brothers and sisters had, okay? That ignores that fact. It ignores the fact, and don't even come in my chat with it, please. I'm not going to get into it today. I'm talking about those who were indeed captured and sold from the African continent. If you feel that's not your heritage or ancestry, okay, fine. I'm not getting to that debate. I'm talking about the ones who were brought here from the African continent. That's not denying that there are indigenous Blacks, whatever. I'm talking about the ones who came from the African continent. That's ignoring the fact that the reason a lot of Black people were sought after from the African continent was because they already had skills, okay? Whether that was blacksmithing, whether that was in medicine, irrigation, agriculture, whether that was being very skilled orators, whether that was being very skilled builders. You see, I know that we are delineating nowadays, and y'all know I support that. Y'all know I support that. However, for those of us with ancestry from the African continent, which I think is most of us to a great extent or to some extent, we need to not forget that the reason why our ancestors from whom we descended, and yes, I'm very aware that in the United States of America, only a small percentage of the Africans from mainly West Africa into Central Africa, I'm very aware that only a small percentage were actually brought to what is now the United States of America. I'm very well aware that the majority of people who are enslaved in the United States of America happened from domestic reproduction, not from importation directly from the African continent. I know that when it came to America, a lot of the Africans that were captured were brought to the Caribbean and were seasoned. They were never citizens of those Caribbean nations. They were seasoned there, meaning they were making sure that they didn't have any type of disease, such as tuberculosis, smallpox, and then they will be brought over to the U.S., mainly to Charleston, South Carolina. Yes, there were some ships that came directly from the African continent to Charleston, South Carolina. There was a lot, actually. But I'm well aware that in the U.S., the majority, our population exploded because of domestic reproduction. I'm very aware of that. However, it is still the truth. A lot of Africans who were captured by, warring African tribes. And by the way, I hate when people say that. I used to say that all the time. I used to say that it's not that Africans sold each other. It was warring empires that were fighting with each other who sold prisoners of war. And that's true. That was the truth. However, that doesn't make it right. If that's the case, we can say that Europeans were just engaging in enslavement of others, which was always done at that time. That doesn't make it right. They also ignores the fact that American chattel slavery was uniquely brutal in many respects, even to the point where after the end of chattel slavery on paper, our population continued to be terrorized in a manner that was actually more brutal than when we were enslaved. That did not happen in a lot of the former colonies in the Western Hemisphere, because a lot of them, the majority of the population was black. In any case, and a lot of these African rulers, they discovered that American chattel slavery was far more brutal than what was customarily done on the African continent. Anyway, look at this right here. Okay, here you got this Caribbean raccoon, a tether, who thought he had a gotcha point. This is something that a lot of them like to do. A lot of them like to go to the railroad industry. Okay? A lot of them like to go to the railroad industry. They like to pretend that, well, this is a perfect example of how slavery benefited Black Americans who were enslaved. Because the railroad industry did not exist on the African continent. That was something, they say, that first appeared in Britain in a very small scale, but then came to America and expanded more rapidly than any other place in the world. However, he thought he had a gotcha. But here's the thing, though. Skills needed for constructing the railroads is stone masonry, blacksmithing, and carpentry. Blacksmithing, our ancestors, especially here in South Carolina, were renowned for their blacksmithing skills, okay? They were renowned for their blacksmithing skills. In fact, we had entire plantations that were just really dedicated to smelting iron. In fact, if y'all Google it, here in the Gullah Geechee region, especially in Charleston down to Beaufort, were known for certain benches that were smelted from iron, certain fences that you will find all throughout the world. You even have some of the fences and benches that were purchased and exported to China. Those are skills that our ancestors already had. As far as masonry goes, stone masonry, again, you have entire kingdoms throughout the African continent where you had entire buildings that are still standing, made from stone. Some of these are some of the oldest standing buildings in the history of mankind that are still located in West Africa. One of them is called Dar Teshit. And no, that's actually how it's pronounced. It's called Dar Teshit. You can look it up. It's one of the oldest, if not the oldest, standing civilizations in history. Okay? And you could look, in fact, I'm going to show y'all. You could look at their buildings that were made from stone. Okay? So these are skills that we had already. But let me show you. This is documentation that shows that the railroad required carpentry, stone masonry, and blacksmithing. It says slaves had many noteworthy skills and talents which made plantations economically self-sufficient. Do you hear that? It says because of skills that we had, that is what made the plantations economically self-sufficient. It didn't say we were taught skills that the whites had and that made them self-sufficient, because if the whites already had them, they would have been self-sufficient already. It says the skills we had made the plantations economically self-sufficient. The services of slaves, blacksmiths, carpenters, coopers, shoemakers, tanners, spinners, weavers, and other artisans were all used to keep plantations running smoothly, efficiently, and with little added expense to the owners. So notice there, we already had these skills that we would then transfer to other areas. Now look, I am a teacher, a public school teacher, and I'm always proud of my record. It's really my students who have done it, okay? But I'm proud of my contribution. I can tell you for a fact that skills are transferable. You can have skills that you learn in one context, and then you transfer it to another context, and then you use those skills in another context to acquire new skills. Okay? That's actually what good teachers do. I always said to my students, I'm not going to teach you facts. I'm going to teach you concepts. I'm going to teach you strategies to help you learn, to help you teach yourself. That is actually what an effective teacher does. And a person who is an effective student, a person who is a proficient student, what qualifies them as being proficient is that they understand how to take the skills they have learned in one context and transfer it to another. That is what our ancestors did. Here is more further proof of that. Some of the songs I've been working on the railroad, this is all a testament to our physical and intellectual labor that built the railroads. Look here. Skilled slaves, especially blacksmiths, stonemasons, and carpenters, worked on the railroads too. Okay? Grinding lines, building bridges, and blasting tunnels. Do y'all know that one of the most prolific constructors of bridges in the 1800s was a black man? Did y'all know that? Let me see if I can find his name. This was something he taught himself. Let me see if I can find his name. It is believed Horace King. Horace King. He is from South Carolina. Okay? He was born in South Carolina. He was believed to have been or to be the person who built the most bridges in the 1800s in the United States of America. He was born enslaved, but he shortly was emancipated himself. He didn't do that until after slavery. You have plenty of people who were enslaved that invented things that were not previously invented in the United States of America. For example, we have our enslaved ancestor who built the propeller that allowed boats to go through swampy, muddy water. He came up with that on his own. You have our enslaved ancestor, his last name is Bradley, who invented the first steam-powered warship that the U.S. used in a war. He invented that of his own ingenuity. That was not taught to him. It didn't exist before him. You had a black woman who was enslaved who invented the juicer. Let me look up. But I love black inventors. Madeline Turner. Okay? Madeline Turner. She was granted a patent in 1916. That's of her own ingenuity. A lot of times, our ancestors were doing things that they were self-taught because even a free black person was often denied the same educational opportunities as a white person. So talking about slaves or benefit from skills we learned, it was almost illegal for us to be taught anything. They made it almost impossible. The things we came here with, we already had. But let me show you some other things I bookmarked. Sometimes I love it when I don't have to do the work. Oh, and by the way, I've been asking people to name skills that our ancestors did not already have that they were taught during slavery. I haven't gotten one response yet to that. Matter of fact, some of the raccoons, that the Lionel Squires guy and that Clarence Thomas's play nephew raccoon, they can't respond to that. They can't respond to that at all. They can't name one skill. I said, name one skill that our ancestors who were enslaved did not already have that our ancestors who were free would not have had. If you want to make it seem like slavery is responsible for Black Americans learning certain skills, then I'm going to need you to explain how some of the most prolific inventors of the 1800s, 1900s, hell, even the present, but during the days of slavery, explain how some of the most prolific inventors of that time were free black people. Granville Woods, he pioneered one of the first instances of wireless communication when he built the multiplex telegraph that allowed moving trains to communicate with each other. He was born free. As free as you can in the United States of America as a black American man, a freedman. Okay, FBA. Lewis Latimer. Lewis Latimer is credited as being one of the fathers of electricity. Not only electricity, but telecommunications. This is a man who installed some of the first electrical grids in the United States of America. This is a man who invented a type of light bulb that at one point was longer lasting than Thomas Edison's light bulb. So much so, I think it was General Electric, they took his lamps and they mass produced his lamps. Some of the first source of lighting in the world, electric lighting in the world. He installed the first electrical grids. But not only that, he did the mechanical design, the mechanical drawing for Alexander Graham Bell's telephone. So a black man who was a child of two people who were enslaved in Virginia, self-taught, helped to bring the world electricity and telecommunications. He wasn't enslaved. So how did he learn those skills if slavery is responsible for us having our skills? Miss me with the BS, but I'm not done, y'all. Check this out. I love it when sometimes the work is already done for me. I love it. I love it a lot. All right, here we go. It was this white lady who was breaking it down. I mean, you know, I'm not going to say she's an ally, but it was this white lady who was breaking it down. Oh, my goodness, she was going, oh, it's a black lady, I guess. Oh, no, it was this one. Oh, here, let's check this out. Check this out here, y'all. Speaking of how our ancestors came from the United States, okay, no, the white lady is, of course, one of those anti-black bigots trying to come off as being reasonable, and she's just an anti-black freedman FBA bigot. So, check this out. This is about how our ancestors came from the African continent already with skills. Okay? We already talked about how, like, ancient Mali, which was a source, what was now called the Senegambia, that region, which Mali is a part of that, they had ancient Timbuktu. It's either the second or the oldest university in the world is there. Okay? It's still there. They were known for their intellectual pursuits. They still have tens of thousands of books that are not yet known. So it's not just skills we had, it's also our intellect. Matter of fact, ancient Africa didn't start going down until some of our so-called ancestors were stupid enough to partner with the Europeans. Instead of staying on code, like the Europeans who hated each other, stayed on code and decided to conquer Africa, they could have stayed on code and that have happened. So they weren't necessarily righteous. I'm just stating the fact. But look at this here. We know in the Low Country, the first public water system in what would become the United States of America, okay, massive irrigation system, right here where I live in the coast of South Carolina, done by black people who were brought from the windward coast of West Africa. Of course, they did it to cultivate rice. And because of that, South Carolina, the colony at that time of South Carolina, then the state, the city of Charleston, South Carolina, became some of the richest places in the world. In New England, the Akan people, they were known for their military prowess. Okay? So the Puritans wanted them because of their military prowess. This is another story. Inoculation. Enslaved man Onesimus, he taught the white man that is him how to inoculate himself. And he helped stop, what was it? Yellow fever or smallpox? He helped stop a smallpox epidemic that was occurring throughout the colonies because the man he enslaved, Onesimus, remembered how to do it from where he was enslaved to what is now present-day Senegal. All right? Even though Europeans built larger ships that went longer distances, the Europeans really sought after West and Central Africans who were going down the Niger River and all the other tumultuous rivers in the African continent because their boats were stable and could hold about 100 people or more and were good for fishing and were good for dealing with rough currents. So a lot of them were sought after in the Chesapeake Bay over in Virginia and even in some of the New England colonies. Let's keep going. In Texas, they sought the Fulani. So you forgot, the first cowboys, as we call them now in the United States of America, were really black people. They were called cow herders. They used to go through the South Carolina swamps and herd up the cows and the pigs. People in Texas wanted that skill for the large prairies out there. That's why they got them. And of course, we already know about blacksmithing, how the Benin Bronxes, and a lot of these works of iron, they're in European museums today because of them being such a marvel. But it's not just that. The racist, as I call him, he tried, and I'm going to blame him because this is his doing. He tried to pass the buck. No, he tried to cite certain people as examples of how we learned skills during slavery that we use for our own personal gain. The problem, and people called them out, a lot of the people he named were never enslaved. And the few who were didn't start their thriving businesses or didn't invent their inventions until after slavery ended. I already told y'all here about Horace Kane. Now you got Henry Blair, who invented the corn planter and the cotton planter. Okay? You have here our brother who started working on whaling boats and established a shipping business in Massachusetts. It is believed that he escaped to freedom and then he started it afterwards, or he was either born free. So either he shortly self-emancipated after he was born, or he was born free to one of his parents or his parents who had fled from slavery and self-emancipated. I already told y'all about Lewis Latimer, okay, who helped to bring the world telecommunications and electricity. There are several people they named, like they try to name Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington became known for his intellect, but he wasn't even allowed to start studying after he was freed at 9 years old. If he had stayed enslaved, he would have never been known for his intellect, more than likely, because he would have been forbidden from using it. They just selected random black names of our ancestors who were incredible, which all of our ancestors were incredible, the majority of them, whether they were enslaved or not. And they tried to say, oh, look, you see, they learned these skills during slavery, when a lot of them were never enslaved or did not actually do their inventions until after they emancipated from slavery. And then again, let's say they were enslaved. They're still not accounting for the fact that if the black people who were enslaved learned skills, explain how the black people who were free had those same skills. We either came here with them, retained them, or were self-taught. Now, y'all, here's another thing. Now, let's use logic. If slavery was so beneficial to our people here in America, explain to me then why for centuries our people were fighting to end chattel slavery and white people were fighting to keep us enslaved. That's not adding up. If slavery was benefiting us so much, why the hell were we fighting to end it? And why white people be fighting to keep us in it? That's not adding up. Why would we be fighting to end something that has so many benefits? Does that make sense to you? Our people would sometimes kill their own children because they did not want them to be subjected to chattel slavery. That doesn't sound like something beneficial to me. That doesn't sound like any system or institution from which they were getting all these benefits. And I forgot the guy on Twitter, but he already made the point. If slavery was so beneficial, why were white people not signing up to do it? Why were white people not signing up to do it themselves if it was so beneficial? If it was so beneficial, why are white people not signing up to do it? And why were our people fighting, even willing to die a lot of times when they knew if they fought back against it and did not secede, they would be killed? And they said, come what may. Why were our people running away and starting maroon colonies? Why did our people spend centuries in the abolition movement? If it was so there were so many benefits, huh? Let's use logic. So you have numerous examples of our people who are free as a freeman FBA could be in America, who had the same skills that their brothers and sisters who were enslaved had, showing that slavery was not responsible for learning any damn skills. We had them already. We retained them, and we used our ingenuity and transferred our skills to learn new skills. Matter of fact, people like to mention the railroad industry. The railroad industry, as we know it today, would not exist without black people. Okay? You had Elijah McCoy, who came up with the automated lubricant system. Okay? That really helped to modernize railroads. Then you had our brother who did the railroad coupling system, where it made it much safer to couple trains. Then you had our brother and sister, I think it was the same guy, who did the signaling system when a train was about to come. So instead of these new industries teaching us something, we actually came along and revolutionized these so-called new industries. We were a part of those new industries' birth, their genesis. Okay? So don't let anyone try to come and say, well, there were some benefits because we learned skills. These were skills we already had. Our ancestors had them, we retained them, and we transferred those skills to learn new skills, to adapt to industries that were just coming on the scene. But here's another thing. They don't tell you that a lot of these industries would not exist if it was not for our people being enslaved. It was not for the skills that our people had already. A lot of these industries would not exist at all. Now, here's another thing they like to do. They like to make it seem, well, we saved you from the African continent. First of all, for those of us with ancestry from the African continent, which I think is the majority of us to some extent, to a great extent, like mine, or to a significant extent, to some, let's not, I know we're delineating. I know we have a lot of tethers who are African immigrants. The ones that are not, they're not. But the ones that are, I know that's what they are. However, let's not allow them to make us think that the ancient Africa had all of the issues that the Africa of today has, which, by the way, Africa today has a lot of issues because of colonization, because they were off cold. They decided to partner with the Europeans, and some of them are still fighting against the Europeans. Like you got Nigeria, who was considering, and some of those other economic states of West Africa, I forgot what they call those West African states that have like a alliance with each other, thinking about invading Niger because Niger had the audacity to kick out their colonizers who weren't doing a damn thing but keeping them deprived and in poverty that's almost the worst in the world. And now you got Nigeria, who can't even deal with their own damn issues, acting like they have the right to interfere in Nigeria's issues. How about you deal with all the issues Nigeria has before you start acting like you could tell another country what they can do? But in Niger, and I don't know what direction that's going to take, but you have the young ruler who's like, tell the French to go, America, we don't want your aid. He's putting the culture of the different tribes in Niger front and center. He's trying to build up industries that will benefit the Nigerians there. That's happening in Mali, Burkina Faso, a few African nations. That revolution needs to happen everywhere, okay? Non-violent, but it needs to happen everywhere, okay? You still have a lot of these African countries and rulers who are off cold as hell. They were off cold, and that's why the Europeans were allowed to enslave tens of millions of us That's why the Europeans were able to colonize the whole damn continent. So a lot of these African leaders are off cold as hell, and a lot of them still are. No type of backbone, no type of pride, continental pride. No type of gusto, no type of guts. It annoys me. But when it's time to fight other black people, though, oh, they ready for that. Nigeria will not dare stand up against France or England. But it's time to fight another African nation, oh, they ready for that. Or if they immigrate here, the ones that attempt us, or they can talk slick to black Americans. They're in our country enjoying our rights, what we fought for, and they know that if something ever goes down, black Americans, free men, we're going to fight. So they come here acting all comfortable and all bigoty. But still, y'all, don't let people cloudy the truth about ancient Africa. Ancient Africa was filled with ancient kingdoms that, according to the Europeans themselves, either rivaled or outdid a lot of ancient Europeans' kingdoms. Okay? Look at what they wrote about the kingdom of Benin. Look at what they wrote about the kingdom of Congo. Look at what they wrote about the Swahili city-states. And before anyone tries it, that was way before those olive-skinned Arabs came. The reason the olive-skinned Arabs came to what is now the coast of Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique, is because they already had a thriving commerce scene with thriving culture. Look at what they wrote about Great Zimbabwe, the ancient stone kingdoms down in South Africa. It's not just Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe has the largest, but they're also in Botswana and South Africa. Look at what they wrote about ancient Mali. And by the way, I didn't tell y'all Dar to shit because I'm going to show y'all because it's unknown. And yes, that's how it's pronounced, y'all. I promise you that's how it's pronounced. Yes, it sounds like I'm using profanity. I am not. That's how it's pronounced. But here's ancient Dar to shit. This is believed to be one of, if not the oldest, settlements in human civilization as far as coming out of the Neolithic era. Okay? Let me show y'all. These are stone buildings showing that stone masonry has always been a skill ancient Africans had. Okay? These things are they try to say that settlement in Turkey is older, but actually some research is showing that Dar Tashit is much older. I think the oldest painting of the will is here as well. Okay? It's now, most of it is in Mauritania. You know, Mauritania is not a stable country where you should visit. I want to visit Mauritania, but I mean, it's going to be risky. I've visited risky countries before, but no. But these stone buildings you see, these things have been here thousands of years, probably longer than thousands. Let me take that back. I don't know thousands. They've been here for a long, long time. These buildings are still standing. Still standing. They believe the kingdom of Ghana came from Dar Tashit. Still standing. They have roads that are still paved in this kingdom. They even have a system of indoor plumbing. My point is, don't let them pull that BS. They saved us from the African continent. First of all, we saved ourselves from ancient Africans who betrayed us or were so off cold, they sold us to the Europeans, and we saved ourselves from Europeans, and then we saved ourselves from white Americans. We saved ourselves. And by the way, we don't need to think, look, I used to be very big on studying ancient Africa because we were taught so little about it. But I realized, I knew then, I was always prideful of our culture as Black Americans, okay, freedmen. Always. No, they don't know it, Mom and Dad. They don't know it. Every time I visit the African continent and I've done research, there are so many there who are not taught their own history. It's embarrassing. Or y'all will not believe it. I told y'all when I was in Kenya, they were trying to give their credit to olive white-skinned Arabs, not the black Arabs, the olive white-skinned ones. I told y'all I wrote the paper and I wrote an article and they published it in the Daily Nation, which is the largest paper in Kenya. Let me see if I can find it actually. I was so offended at black Kenyans sitting there giving their black history to white people trying to argue with me about it, that I said I was not going to let it go, and I did it. Let me see if I can find this right now. Hold on. They spelled my last name wrong. Let me see if I can find the article. I posted it on my Twitter before, y'all. I posted it on my Twitter before. Here it is. I think it's a paywall, but here's the article. Because they're still teaching themselves European history. I went to Nigeria, and she was like, the Europeans gave us our independence. I said, didn't y'all fight for that? She said, because they thought we can rule ourselves. She said, but then we have a war, so it turned out we couldn't. I said, wait a minute. Didn't Europe just had the Second World War that killed more people in the history of war? And then they have World War I between. A lot of them have no sense of pride. None. I was embarrassed. That's one of the reasons why I abandoned this Pan-Africanism thing, because I'm like, they don't have it. Okay, y'all, here it is. This is an article I wrote. Now, keep in mind, I was in my Pan-African days, but this is an article I wrote in Kenya because I got tired of these black Kenyan tour guides telling me that the Swahili city-state culture came from white-skinned Arabs. Read it. I was so disgusted. The good news is, after this article went viral in Kenya, and it did, I got tens, maybe even hundreds of emails from black Kenyans saying that they are brainwashing themselves. They say that the ones who are on hold, they say that they try to tell their fellow Kenyans that they need to have more pride, that they need to claim their history, and they are looked at as crazy. And they told me the only reason why my article got published is because I'm an American, I'm a tourist, and they didn't want to possibly risk that backlash. Anyway, though, the gentleman, I think the Kenyan Department of Archaeology and Museums or whatever, they spelled my name wrong, as y'all see. My name is Dixon. I guess they spelled it the British way, whatever. Even though the Dixon is in Britain too, whatever. Anyway, the department, or the guy who was over the Getty sites, he wrote me a letter, showed me that he had to train them again and all. I don't think I've ever shared the photos, but I have it. I had to dig it up because this was back in 2016, I believe. Or was it 2015? I think it was 2016. I can't remember the year, y'all. Anyway, so you're right, Mama Deb. A lot of them don't know their own. They still use European curriculums. That's why in some of these countries that have had coups, and I don't condone violence or coups, but hell, the revolution, that's what America did during the American Revolution. It was pretty much a coup. Hell. So yeah, if a coup is necessary for the salvation of the people, then I condone it. Now, he's like, we're going to teach our history. So a lot of them are still off cold now, and the people there are suffering. But don't let them convince you that East Africa was some hinterland from which we need to be saved. If that was the case, they wouldn't want us. There were marvelous ancient kingdoms, ancient cities. Matter of fact, one of the most successful C-sections done in recorded history was done in what is now Uganda. The Europeans did C-sections, but a lot of times the mother died, the baby died, or both died. They saw people in Uganda using anesthesia from a banana vine or something, and it will be done, and the mother will live and the baby will live. They couldn't believe it. One of the first systems of public street lighting, they said they saw in the Empire of Benin, and what is today modern-day Nigeria. Okay? I can go on about some of the things Europeans wrote. Europeans wrote these things that they observed. I encourage you to look at it. But in no way was ancient Africa some hinterland from which we needed to be saved. I'll tell you which continent was a hinterland: Europe. Europe was the hinterland. Europe civilized, and when you compare Asia, Africa, and Europe civilized last. And after Europe civilized, when most of their history was filled with bloody warfare. No one does war better than the Europeans. No one does savagery better than the ancient Europeans, okay? After Europe civilized, they then shortly fell into the Dark Ages when the Roman Empire fell, okay? A long time, no one knows what was happening on that continent. Civilization completely left. It was actually Africans who had to bring them out of the Dark Ages. So don't let them try to tell you that. If any continent from where people need to be saved, it was Europe. That's why they were running from Europe to get to America, because they wanted to be saved from Europe. So don't let them put they saved us from Africa. Africa actually started to decline when the Europeans arrived. And the Africans were too damn dumb to get on code and say, Let me tell you what the Asians did. Asia, ancient China and ancient Japan, when they saw how the Europeans were moving, they said, oh, hell no, get out. Japan closed off all trading networks. China pretty much closed down too. That's why sometimes China was called like the Forbidden Kingdom, the Hidden Kingdom, whatever, because the Asians were like, oh, no. I don't like the way these Europeans are moving. I don't trust them. Of course, ancient Africa, thank the daddy, thank the master. Yes, master. We'll do things with you, master. Thank you, love. The Aqueous extract. Okay, I learn something new every day. I knew they would use that as anesthesia. Okay, Africans couldn't get on coal like that. Africa had a thriving trans-Sahara trade network. It was one of the things that led to the wealth of Africa, that led to the continent booming. They abandoned their trans-Sahara trade network to divert the trade to the coast for chattel slavery, and they failed. That's why the continent started collapsing. And they started trading each other so much that it became either I'm going to enslave you first and sell you, or you're going to enslave me first and sell me. So instead of them focusing on economic development, it was all about chattel slavery. That became the number one crime, and that's when they started to fall. Their fault. They couldn't get on code. The Asians got on code. China said, oh, hell no. Not messing with these Europeans anymore. Japan said, hell no, not messing with these Europeans. What did the Asians see that the Africans could not see? And a lot of them are still kissing up to Europeans and white Americans who can't stand them. The only group that has been historically friendly to them have been Black Americans, freedmen. And they started to change that. Not all, but the ones that are off full tether, they are. But anyway, don't let them tell you that. Second of all, you didn't save us, we saved you. So you didn't save us, African continent. We were captured, sold as a continent, came over here and saved you. Here's more logic. If slavery was so, but first of all, this whole that slavery didn't build the nation, everyone did. Well, if everyone built the nation, how come it was Black people you wanted to keep enslaved because you said the nation would fall without us? Huh? Any answers to that? If everyone helped build the nation and Black just played a minuscule role, or we played a role that was equal to everyone else, how come this country had a bloody war? I think the bloodiest war until, don't quote me, I think the Vietnam War, I think the Civil War is still one of the wars that have had the most casualties in American history than almost any war. How come a bloody war was fought to keep us enslaved, but not anyone else? How come they didn't fight to keep the Irish? How come they didn't say to the Irish, oh, no, we're going to enslave y'all because y'all got to work? How come they didn't do that with the Italians? It was Black people that a bloody war was fought over for keeping us enslaved. And no, the Union did not fight to free us. I know that. In fact, it wasn't about slavery at all when it started. The cause of it was slavery, the friction, the division, the secession. Yes, that was caused by slavery. But Abraham Lincoln was like, I just want to save the Union. Frederick Douglass then told him, make it about slavery. So that way Britain and other European nations would not be able to join and help, because if they did, Europeans would revolt. Hold on, y'all. Let me go. Hold on real quick, please. Okay, love, I understand that, but the Civil War, I'm not saying it's all history. As far as American casualties go, the Civil War did have the most American casualties until I forgot which war. But one of the wars finally broke the record for American casualties. Oh, it was World War. Are you saying it was World War II? Okay, well, y'all do the research. Hell, man, y'all, I ain't encyclopedia black. Okay, anyway. So, can someone explain that to me? If black people, our ancestors were enslaved, did not build the nation. How? Oh no, love. We good. You're right. I was just saying, if you could look it up, please. I don't know. If black people did not build the nation, how come this nation fought one of its bloodiest wars ever? Still one of the bloodiest wars fought in American history to keep us enslaved. Who else were they fighting to keep enslaved? Huh? Who? Huh? What? Okay. How come after chattel slavery ended on paper, they then trapped us into another form of slavery called sharecropping? If it wasn't us building the nation. These damn skills that we taught ourselves and that we then use to learn other skills, they did not benefit. They were not allowed to benefit. We were not allowed to benefit ourselves from it. We were trapped for centuries in a system to benefit everyone else. What personal gain? It was used for the gain of America. We still ain't benefiting from our own damn skills because we have yet to get reparations. At the end of chattel slavery, the value of our people, as disgusting as that sounds, was somewhere between $42 to $84 trillion. We never saw a penny of it. And then when we pulled ourselves up by bootless straps and built Black Wall Streets and purchased land, they stole 90%. At minimum 20 million acres minimum of land from us, burnt our streets down, flooded them, railroads through them, highways through them. So what benefit have we gotten? Locked us in ghettos, experimented on us, lynch mobs galore, mass incarceration, crack epidemic. What benefits have we gotten? No, you don't get to tell me that because I built the nation and we've helped make America the nation it is, that we benefit from being in America. No, America benefited from me being here. Now, America benefits from me being here. You don't get to tell a tree it benefits from its fruit when you're the one eating all the damn fruit. We're bearing the fruit. You're benefiting from it. I'm so sorry, Mama, Dad. My family supposedly lost an entire sea island here off the coast of Beaufort. Now, you don't tell the apple tree they benefit from bearing apples when the apple tree is the one doing all the bearing. Now, no, you ain't saved us from nothing. We came here and saved y'all. Y'all needed us. We ain't benefit from nothing. Matter of fact, we were murdered, killed, brutally discriminated against when we tried to benefit ourselves. And now that we're saying we need to benefit from all the wealth we generate from this nation, you got those same bigots talking about we don't deserve reparations. So y'all still don't want us to benefit from our skills. You still don't want us to benefit from our skills right now. So miss me with the BS arguments. You damn right they still need us all black all day. Therese Owens. You damn right. Because check this out. You know how they like to say, oh, go back to Africa? Well, first of all, damn it, I'm not from Africa. Hey! Just because my great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents were captured and sold from there, my ancestry has not been African in centuries. 400, 500 years. By the 1780s, 90s, most Black Americans were at least second generation, third generation, at least. I don't know about most, but good first or second generation. But check this out. They want us to go back to Africa. Really? You serious? No, you don't, because they didn't even want our ancestors leaving the South. Look up the Great Migration, y'all. Look up the Great Migration. When our ancestors would try to get on trains to go to the Midwest, like Chicago, Detroit, or to go to New York City or Philadelphia, When whites found out, anti-black bigots, whites, when they found out, when they realized that black Americans were leaving by the millions from the South, which I feel was something that we didn't want to do, but we had to do it, we felt we need to come back South, but we'll talk about that some other day. When they found out that our ancestors were leaving from the South, they will go to the train stations to try to stop us. Okay? They will go to the train stations with little lynch mobs to try to threaten and intimidate our ancestors with violence to not leave. Wait, I thought y'all wanted us to go to Africa. Y'all don't even want us to go to the northern part of the United States of America. You didn't even want us to leave. When black American woman in South Carolina, in Greenville, South Carolina, a lot of us are coming back, Mama, Dad, you're right. When black American woman in Greenville, South Carolina said, I'm not going to work, their husband said, hey, baby, I'm working now. I have a farming job. Black Americans, we own land. We were starting to get into the middle class at one point. And they told black American women in Greenville, South Carolina, you can stay home. And black women in Greenville, South Carolina will becoming stay-at-home moms because black women, this whole woman needs the right to work. That's a white woman's battle. Black women have never had the luxury of not working in America. We need to start talking some women history of women in America. Oh, there is no general history of women in America. Black women have always had a history that's far more brutal, bloody, violent, and filled with injustices. White women have never had that history. Not only about no suffrage movement, black women have a uniquely brutal savage. Don't try to do this feminism stuff as white women have been allies. They were right there at every lynch mob, every plantation, right there, being just as anti-black, if not more, than their husbands. So miss me with the feminism history. Black women in Greenville, South Carolina were allowed to stay home. Guess what happened? White women started complaining that they had to do their own work. And Greenville, South Carolina passed an ordinance saying that black women were not allowed to not work. Look it up. Wait, I thought y'all wanted to go back to Africa. Y'all don't even want us to stay home. Y'all didn't even want us to go to the north. So stop with this whole go back to Africa. Because the moment we decide to leave America, if we ever do, which I'm not leaving my home, but if we ever decide, okay, America, we out of here, it will crumble the next minute. You can't have America without the people who built America, who keep America going, and are the reason America still exists. That's us. Now. So y'all, I'm at the end because I have to go tend to a relative to make sure they're okay. But don't ever, look, I'm not saying go back and forth with idiots, okay, y'all? Y'all, we don't need to go back and forth with idiots or trolls. I'm not saying that. But if you're ever in a debate about this, where it's a debate of substance, always use the facts that I just presented. But also use logic. If slavery benefited us so much, how come white people were fighting to keep us in it and we were fighting to get out of it? If slavery benefited us so much, how come there were laws that prevented us from using skills for our personal gain? And also, if we learn skills and we have to credit any skills that we may have used for our personal gain during the days of chattel slavery to slavery, how come free black Americans who were never enslaved had those same skills? Or how come a lot of the inventions and revolutionary concepts that our people pioneered a lot of times happened after we were emancipated? Also, we taught white people skills, as I already cited. Inoculation. How to, in the herding of the cattle in Texas. These things exist to some extent among you, but not to the extent that they learned from us. So y'all, I really appreciate y'all coming through tonight. I really enjoyed this broadcast. Please hit the like button. Please share this out and subscribe. Thank y'all for coming through. Y'all take care, all right?